Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Gabriel Brent, and we are going to be concluding our trade plan series today. So we're going to be talking a lot about trade journals, but before we get into that, let's go to a little bit of an overview of the things that we have covered so far. Okay, so we talked about objectives and your overall business objectives as far as trading goes, and this is more of an all-inclusive thing. We talked about personal profile and what you feel comfortable with, and as you're making your trade plan, so important to make sure that we are comfortable with our trade plan. Sometimes adapting somebody else's trade plan throws you out of what you're comfortable with, and that's not a good trade plan for you. So I think it's very important that we adapt the trade plan for ourselves and not just because somebody else is having success. So the mental side of trading, we talked a lot about the 80-20 rule. What it is like with the sim trading and then live. And making that switch is the hardest part. I was just talking to a trader the other day, and making that switch is the pivotal moment. It is the apex decision whether they can come over that hurdle or not. And some people just can't get over that mental hurdle. And that's totally understandable. So we just have to be aware of that. Personal trading style, again, it kind of goes with this overall profile of things. Understanding your strengths and weaknesses, understanding if you're motivated by greed or fear. And we talked a little bit about account size there, if you guys will recall that. And then creating goals, having a plan and sticking to it. Don't be reactive to the market, but be like proactive and plan your setup, plan your goals. Having a plan is a big part of things, and sticking to that plan. We talked a lot about that. Defining success. This is something that I don't think that we've talked a lot about, but it goes into what we're going to be talking about today. We need to keep track of where we've been to see where we're going. Okay. I've been very blessed by all of you because as I've been sharing my software and as I've been trading, I've been making a ton of videos. I've been sharing a lot with so many different people over the years. And as I've been making all these videos, I can see the APA-zones progress. I can see helpful tools, helpful additions, subtractions, how they've come into the APA-zone software, and how it's affected me as a trader. So I've been very blessed to have video recordings of my trading journey to such a degree. And I hope and I wish that everybody here can find an outlet for themselves to document where they've been and where they're going. I think that's really important. We're going to be talking about that. We haven't really talked about the morning routine so much, and the actual trading entries and stuff, because we kind of set that into a whole nother category by itself. We've talked about money management, that kind of stuff, but I think the most important thing, and really what I want to focus on today, is journals. Documenting, kind of like what I was just saying. I've been blessed with the video documentation, with the software documentation, all this kind of thing. But I think it's important that each one of us has a journal, a way of keeping track of where we've been, where we're going, and the struggles that we've overcome. Because understanding your successes and where you've come from as far as a trader, trading is not like a destination. Like becoming a successful trader is, it's not a destination that you get to, but it is a journey, you know. I find myself struggling with some of the things that I thought I overcame several years ago. They come back to haunt me, you know, and I'm kind of surprised by that every once in a while. I'm like, wait a second, why in the world am I struggling with that thing? Like, how can I have fat figures anymore? Like, how can I hit the wrong button? You know, like that doesn't happen. You know, where did that come from? So things of that nature, you know, and keeping kind of a track record of where you've been, because it's just so important. When you have bad days, to be able to give yourself something to encourage yourself, because your mental attitude is just so important. If you're expecting a win on your next trade, it's going to affect how you place that trade. If you're trying to recover from a loss, if you're trying to trade your P&L, if you're trying to dig yourself out of the hole, if you're trying to, I don't know, there's so many different mental things that you can fall into. But those are the first few that come to mind. But those things can really affect how you think about the markets and how you change your winning probability. I know that you guys have probably all seen me look at the winning probability a lot, but that was really important for me mentally to record. You know, how am I doing here? What am I doing here? This probability sheet speaks more to my mental side of trading than pretty much anything else, you know. This helps me keep in track with, just so that you guys can see this sheet, I'm going to bring it over here now, in case you guys have never seen this sheet before. This sheet of statistics speaks more to me about the mental side of trading and why so many traders fail than anything else, and how and why I think I succeed. Okay? Because out of a sample size, we can come in here and we can say, statistically speaking, this is how many losses I could incur in a row. And this is my given winning percentage, or you could look at it from a losing percentage way, but I prefer to take out this column. This is a generic sheet that was given to us in the Skype room several years ago. I've actually gone in there and I've double-checked this sheet just because I really wanted to make sure that these probabilities were correct. So to me, that's a really big thing, you know. I want to make sure that everything that I'm doing lines up statistically, because understanding the statistical analysis helped me control the mental side of trading. And that's just how it worked for me. I don't know if it's going to be the same for you or if you're geared completely different. And more than likely, you something else will be that key for you. But this was my key. So I like to talk about this key a lot. But it helps me document and helps me understand the mental side of things. So inside the APA mentorship program, which I'm sure many of you guys know about, we have a lot of different tools. Michelle is one of the founding mentors, and being so, she has shared her psychological tools. And this is one of the trade journal is one of those big tools that we use, and we really want to look at because it is so important. Absolutely paramount in understanding these processes of where we've been, documenting those, and where we're going. So you can kind of see a little example here. under the notes and the remarks, I really recommend that you take down the mental things that you're thinking too. Put down how you're feeling. Don't be bashful on what you feel, because that's going to determine what all this comes out to be. We are emotional creatures, and to deny that is, I think, a mistake. You can't get rid of that emotional side, and that's really what makes us human. So instead of denying it or trying to shove it into its own little corner, I think we need to let it breathe. The market breathes. That's why we have the zones. We need to understand how we breathe, how we feel in the good times and in the bad times. And what spurs us into those feelings. Because so much of the time, after maybe a losing trade, mentally you're just done. You're just I don't know, maybe you're, maybe something bad happened in your personal life. Maybe you're feeling a little sick. Maybe dinner's not agreeing with you. Maybe your cat ran away. Who knows what? But the reality of the situation is that losing trade should not affect your next trade setup, because you've run your trade plan, you know your trade plan in and out, you have it memorized, and a loss event means that you're just that one step closer to a win, right? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, good deal. I'm glad that it's echoing, and I haven't bored everybody to tears yet. But I just want to make sure that this stuff is making sense, because it is just incredibly important. And I want to make sure that we have a, a good way of analyzing our achievements and our failures. So right above the journaling process, you see this exit strategy. Now, you may think that this is an exit strategy for us to be getting out of a trade, but if you actually read these comments in here, this is an exit strategy for your whole business. Okay? If the account drops down to blah, 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 if you've funded 2 accounts, those type of things. We're looking for an exit strategy for trading. Okay? We've defined what our objectives are. We've gone through all of that type of analysis, and obviously the rewards are there, the risks are there, but I think it's important that we have a complete plan. Not just an optimistic plan, but also a plan that says, what if I can't do this? So I think that's part of understanding who you are. Now, just for me doing this as long as I've done it, I've seen a lot of people come and go. I understand that there are huge challenges with this, but I think it's important for us to be realistic in our expectations. And when we're following a plan, and when we have a plan, it puts you above so many other folks, because let's be honest, we need to know when to cut it off for the day, when we need to cut it off for the week, and so on and so forth. But having a plan and being able to journal these things out really does help, because if you're not finding initial success, we need to say, what's going on? What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Go talk to Michelle. That's what I do. So she has been an excellent trading coach, and just awesome. And I really recommend seeking her out. If any of this stuff is echoing in your spirit or in your soul, go check it out. So with that being said, I'm going to let Michelle chime in here. Hopefully she can get a little bit more into the journaling aspects, just because that's really what I want to focus on today. And uh, journaling your emotions, I think that's a great thing. But Michelle, I'd love to hear what you have to say because, well, you just understand this topic so much better than I do. So, Michelle, are you there?
I am.
So, do you have anything to add as far as journaling in general?
As a general thing, the emotional component is really good. You can journal the facts of your trade plan, and you can go back after the day is done and review to make sure that at the time you were looking at it, there was something that you didn't see. This is a way that we can learn. Um, and also, if you journal your emotions right then and not after the fact, you'll be able to understand what's going on, especially as you look back on your week for a weekly review, which is always a good thing to do. At the end of every week, you should review your weeks of trades, review all the notes that you've written, so that you can learn from those, highlight a few areas that you see repeating over and over, good and bad, so that you can work on changing those couple of areas each time. Each week you improve, each day you improve. So not only do you have your physical P&L journal, so to speak, which was part of that, but you also should have your emotional journal. Every day, journal how you felt at the end of the day, what transpired during the day, what was going on. It's also good to journal at the beginning of the day before you even start to trade. Some people in their trade plans have some questions that they ask themselves each morning. And if any of those questions are no, if any of those answers are no, then they realize they're not on the top of their game. A couple of questions could be, did I get a good night's sleep? Do I feel rested? Do I feel okay? Is my stomach upset? Is there anything going on emotionally with me, or do I feel focused in here? Things like that. Also, have I done my setup yet? Do I have enough time to do my setup, or am I being rushed to do my morning routine? If I'm feeling rushed, then I need to step back and relax and just not be there for, let's say, the open, but show up a little bit later, after the open. Just because you miss the open doesn't mean you miss the whole day's trading. There's plenty of setups that happen after that time that are just as good, just as viable. So these things we have to check in with ourselves before you start trading, when you're doing your routines, adding after you've done a trade or while you're trading, how am I feeling about that trade? Am I feeling nervous? Am I feeling that I want to move my targets, that I want to move my stops? Do I want to close it out? Are my legs jumping up and down because I can't sit still? Or am I calm? Am I focused? Am I feeling relaxed? Maybe a little anticipatory, but generally relaxed, because your feelings don't go away completely. It's just who's in control. Are your emotions in control, or are you in control? So journal these things. See your growth. See where you need to work on overcoming and getting better at. All these things are so important to trading. Your trade plan is one aspect. Your emotional approach to it is the other. I suppose that's what I have to say about that.
Well, that's good. That's good. Speaking of how you're feeling coming into the morning, uh, this is just me personally, but I'm just going to throw this out there for everybody. If there's any reason that you feel that you should not trade in that day, like if you're overly tired, if you're any type of headache or anything like that, don't trade. Just don't even put the money at risk. Um, Something that I've been struggling with for quite a while is I trade live money inside as I'm also doing a lot of training. And as we are doing the mentorships every morning, for those of you that are in the mentorship program, it's very challenging for me to trade and to train at the same time, because maybe somebody says something at the wrong time and totally distracts you, or asks you a question at the wrong time and totally distracts you from what you're doing. You acknowledge that person, but then you forget what you were doing, and all of a sudden the market's made its move and you're not in it. That kind of stuff happens. That happens to me more so than other things. That's usually what I see happening. And for me, it's really hard to trade live money and to run the live training sessions. I found that with the other people that are our coaches as well, they can't do it either. It's just really hard. I feel that I'm pretty good at doing it, but it's still hard, and I have my system and I have my program to where those times of day are highlighted, and actually just before this webinar took place, I was talking to all the coaches, and we were commenting on that. So this is something very real, that this whole process is, like I said, trading is not a destination, but it's a journey, and I'm really thinking, like, okay, if I want to excel at trading, the more focused I can be during these times of day, the better off I am. Doing something new, doing a daily picks page on the Appazone's website. So I'm just posting my trades up there every single day. Better or worse, here's what I'm doing. Okay. So as I'm doing that, I'm finding out during the days that I'm not running the sessions at all, like, those are really good days. So I'm battling that kind of thing right now, and it's journaling. I think it kind of goes back into tracking your success and your failures, where you're at growing in your stage of trading. This is challenging, and you need to really focus when you're doing this. And that's another thing that I would like to bring up here is I only have a small chunk of time that I like to trade. And that's because you are so focused. Your brain is calculating so much. With some of the software that I've written, you're roughly processing in equivalent code to about 26,000 lines of code every time you're doing your analysis. Somewhere equivalent to that. Now, I know that seems like a lot of lines of code, but our minds can see it. It's not that complicated. It sounds really complicated, but for a program, the program's only as smart as the person programming it. But for a human, we can see relative things. Our brain automatically picks up on patterns, and it automatically reverts to patterns too. And so I think that's why emotionally sometimes these hurdles are so hard, is because we're in that same rut. I don't know if that makes sense, but Michelle, I know that you've seen me struggle with some things over and over and over again. Would you say that's true, or am I just off on my own little tangent here?
That we get into an emotional rut?
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a rut so much as the fact that it's the way our subconscious processes everything based on the experiences that it's had so far up to this day. Like I've mentioned before, the subconscious is all about survival. and it wants to keep you safe, and it learned all these different processes to do so. And so when something comes up against it and it doesn't fit that process, or it's going against one of the safe processes, the subconscious will do whatever it can to shut it down. And this is where we start running into things where our conscious brain says, well, but I can get over it. I want to get over it. I shouldn't be this way. I shouldn't feel this after this long, or all these different things, and yet you find yourself doing it over and over again. That's because the subconscious, it's hitting a brick wall that the conscious doesn't believe. So you have this fight against yourself, so to speak. And over time, as you can show, like with your trade plan, with your journaling, with slowly picking out the few things here and there that you keep running into as a brick wall, that will slowly subside as your subconscious starts to feel safe, as you can focus. Sometimes one of the things your subconscious will do to keep you safe is to keep you from focusing. So it will allow the distractions to enter your brain and allow you to get distracted, because it thinks it's trying to keep you out of harm's way. So we constantly battle against those things in all different ways. Skype's one of the things, emails is another, all this different stuff. It's great for when we're bored and when we're waiting for something to set up. It's not so great when it takes over and then you come back and don't see your setup, or you're not concentrating enough to realize that you're taking a wrong setup because you didn't see everything beforehand. So we constantly have to kind of battle against those little things until we overcome them, until the subconscious brain feels that we're not putting ourselves at harm's risk anymore.
Now again, this is just me, and I'm slightly biased here, but I love the Appetime tool because of what Michelle just said. To me, the Appetime tool, like if I take a bad trade, or if something doesn't go right, I have to wait, another 30 minutes before I get into another position. And it allows a lot of that stuff to get hashed out, like for me to check myself before I wreck myself. So it really is an interesting thing, but again, this is just the way that my brain processes it all. So I don't know if that helps anybody, but hopefully.
So Gabriel, like you were mentioning about how the pubs over the years can distract you and have distracted you and still continue to some degree distract you a bit, that can be the same for anybody with like their family life. Maybe their office is still in their home and family comes in and out a lot, or that kind of thing. Those kind of things can distract you. Pets having the need to go out and come in and want attention. So all these things are basically just like the equivalent of what you're talking about with regards to how the pub and getting distracted by a question or something like that. So I was just mentioning that so that people can kind of relate it to their own lives as it's relatable.
That's a really good point, because I would say probably a lot of us here are working out of a home office of some sort. I know that I still work out of a home office, and sometimes it's not about the money, because I can easily afford an office somewhere, but it's more about what is this all about, So I definitely know what you're saying as far as that is concerned. And I guess that's a little bit outside of the whole idea of journaling and whatnot, but it does bring a aspect of that distraction, which is if we're distracted at all, it's probably best not to do something, or not to try to force something because all of a sudden, oh, this looks so good. But then you realize that, oh, I entered the trade and now I'm looking at it for a second glance and, well, shoot, that was a counter trend trade. Why did I ever take that, you know?
Well, and with that being said, also, I write when I get distracted on something. I journal that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's a
So
good
that
thing.
you know how often you're getting distracted. Because if that's something that you're not factoring in and it's happening often enough to create a negative workout in your P&L, then it's something you need to know. And if you know it, then you can decide to put boundaries around it or not and understand that that's the way it's going to be in your life. But at least then you know it's not just about one thing about the trade plan, let's say, but it's also about the distractions that come in that create you to lose your focus. I do. I will journal distractions.
That's awesome. So, I really appreciate your input here, Michelle, and I just think it's absolutely awesome to the degree that you have put all this stuff into place. And if you guys have any more questions for Michelle right now, please feel free to ask them. If there's any personal issues that you guys want to bring up, that's fine. I will try to be discreet and respectful to everybody. But this stuff really matters, you know, and I want to allow people to ask Michelle anything right now. And if you don't feel like asking it in a group setting, please feel free to reach out to Michelle, either about the mentorship or about her personal coaching. All of that's good. We want to make sure that we're a community that builds each other up, you know, and I think this is an excellent way to do so. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions here, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording right now. And thank you, everybody, for attending.